Welcome back to the channel. I hope you're having a great Friday afternoon as we go into the weekend. Um, Andrew Yang. Andrew Yang lit the fire, the man who was right. So our government has passed the first universal basic income package, I guess you can say I've seen. Now, some people might say, well, no, this isn't quite universal basic income, is it? It is a stimulus package to combat the COVID-19 virus. And you'd be correct in that, in a sense. But I would want to add to that however universal basic income would have been conducted, it would be done on a means tested set of circumstances. And so it would always start out as some type of trial. With what's happening, how universal basic income is gaining traction, and what's happening with COVID-19 and how this is working, in a sense, it's giving us an understanding of exactly how universal basic income would work through stimulating an economy that has prohibited people from going to work, similar to what would happen with the rise of AI and machines. The dynamics of this would be comparably the same. Andrew Yang, being the man that was right, in my opinion, about how universal basic income would be able to combat against these type of severe situations, whether it be artificial intelligence and robotics taking and displacing workers in America, or whether it be some silent killer virus that makes it so we cannot even go to work. However you look at this, it's very similar in idea about what it means to how do we push forward as a society and what we do. Now, of course, at some point, everybody will go back to work, and hopefully things will be better, a great deal better than they've been, and we'll try to get on with things. But we will face, right after this, another looming threat, and that's artificial intelligence, and that's robotics, and that is the dangers of what this technology is going to do to us in the future. Maybe this situation will give us a chance to do a little means testing about exactly what happens when people get money, how it goes back in the economy. Now, of course, a lot of people dealing with this threat, they're going to be trying to survive and eat and so on and so forth. But this will be probably not a great deal different than what a technological catastrophe could bring to us, with a lot of people displaced from work, and trying to find a way to survive and get on, and the jobs not being there, right? So this offers a little bit of a testing and insight into what that could be like. So Andrew Yang is looking at this. This is one of those type of situations, obviously where you want to be right, but you don't want to be right under these type circumstances, right? To test this out, something like what I would call our first universal basic income to date, would be better if we could test it prior to the catastrophe, to the incident, to the pandemic, to the robotics revolution that could be bad for humans. It would be a great deal better if we could have systems set up beforehand, tested, working, and ready to be put in place for an eventuality, right? I believe this is an eventuality, right? This is something that is not a question of if it will happen, but it's a question of when. And, of course, what I mean by that is artificial intelligence is going to get better and better and better. And as human beings, our brain capacity to learn whole information and data, and the speed at which we can compute that data and information will always be a step behind these robots and machines, almost to the point they will be a superior entity to us. Of course, that's dangerous on so many levels, but the reality of the situation is it just naturally has to come to the point where people just have to acknowledge that they cannot compete with this machine, right? Try as they may to limit the machine, to disconnect the machine, it will not stop it, right? And this is the future. We can have a COVID-19 situation like with it, where we wait on the brink of the disaster and we act. And because we act too late, there are consequences to that, or we can start already getting ready for this. And it seems like using universal basic income in a time of dire stress like this, that it is showing us that it's work. And I believe it's going to work, and I believe it's going to show us that it works. It's going to show us it's about the only thing that makes sense we could do. Universal basic income, and although I keep calling this stimulus package, this COVID-19 stimulus package, like many people are starting to relate to, as our first universal basic income, I guess I'm calling it that as well because of the scale of it. Like, we've had stimulus packages before, but we've never had them go this big, right? We've never quite had them this big. And because of that, this is a longer one. And if this thing stretches on longer than we think, like the doctors are saying, it's probably at least another 2 months, 6 to 8 weeks, I believe. Donald Trump wants it to happen next week, but he has to go through the governors and states and in the medical profession that's warning against it. So it's not a clear-cut path to this ends next week. That could drag out some type of government assistance intervention for longer, right? So we're going to have to see where we're at with this and how this pans out, but it will give us some indications of testing this out. When I first started talking about Andrew Yang, the naysayers to universal basic income, I have been in a situation where I've always been concerned about government UBI, right? As long as I've talked about these Andrew Yang videos and I've spoken about universal basic income being the solution going forward, yes, in the type of system we have. But do I think there could exist a better system? Absolutely, yes. You see, my first approach to universal basic income wouldn't be at the government level at all, right? It would be more private. It would be a blockchain with technology, and it would be global. When I think about government policy, I think about our previous president, Barack Obama, who wanted to implement Obamacare, right? And as the new administration came in, they wanted to do what? Get rid of Obamacare. The people's will and how the government enacts that will isn't always this congruent thing, obviously. And part of the problem is that even though government UBI, approaching this from a government standpoint, is probably one of the best things we as citizens of the country can ask for and do, We have to remember that future administrations can seek to undo it or seek to prevent it. And although Andrew Yang, like many who have been right on something, and it's taken us a long road to get to, and haven't quite got there yet, Andrew Yang is now in the private sector still pushing universal basic income. I think that's one of the best things he can be doing, because I really do think that universal basic income will have to work outside the government itself. That is my belief, ultimately. Now, again, it doesn't mean that we as citizens shouldn't demand from our government representatives that they do something that is right by us to bring us something like universal basic income. But I think for us to have that real core idea of humanity first with universal basic income, this is something that the people really may have to do on their own through private organizations like Andrew Yang is now pursuing, and like our project, Bitcoin MYK, that is global, that we believe is self-sustainable outside of governments, and with cryptocurrency and blockchain technology, servers decentralized all across the world, make it so that no government can shut it down. This would be our thing, right? And it would be really, literally controlled by the people. Every system of universal basic income, I think, is going to be good going into the future, right? To make this happen, to protect what I believe to be human rights of people, to be entitled to universal basic income, to be entitled to having their basic needs met with so many resources that the earth produces for its children. I believe that this is how universal basic income should work. But if I'm honest, in the end, I don't think something like universal basic income should be controlled by the Trump administration or somebody in the future administration that decides how it works or if it should work at all, if it should stay or go. I think ultimately together we're going to have to make this happen. That's why I'm asking you all to join me today with our project, BitcoinMYK.com, a universal basic income project that uses blockchain technology. Much like the general idea of universal basic income, it doesn't cost you a dime to participate. You see, what we're doing is we're using the new oil of the future, the value, us as people, our social media participation, much like Facebook. Facebook is used by billions of people, but it doesn't cost us anything to use Facebook. Facebook is valued at over $500 billion, but yet nobody spent a dime to use Facebook. We can use similar ideas to create a lasting, standing, universal basic income project that the people, we together control, not some government administration. If something like this sounds like something you'd like to be part of, absolutely free, joining us and giving value to our platform and project, join us today. BitcoinMYK.com. We'll leave a link in the description. You'll begin to receive our cryptocurrency absolutely free every month. It now trades, it has value. So you will be able to use that value for whatever you like. Now, like anything starting from the beginning, it starts in small steps. So this money will be so little and minute, it may not at first interest many of you. But the more of us join together and the more we build this thing, the more value comes in. And we could become one of the largest networks in the world, similar to like how Facebook functions, sharing this value with the world and it being controlled through a decentralized set of computers and servers, unable to be interrupted by any government policy because it would be all over the world, run across many countries, right? And us as the people would have access to that value. But this is the direction I think it really needs to go in. And that's all I want to say in this video. Thanks to people like Andrew Yang, who has put us on the right course and is continuing to do good work along these lines. And I do hope his programs start to move in a direction like this as well. I believe now he's targeting like New York and California, and that's a great start. But we're going to need a lot more than that, and we're going to need a lot of more private organizations and programs going forward to really put in place something like we would wish it to be, I believe. But that's all I want to say in this video. If you like content like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Share this video with friends, family, across social media, right? That way we can grow ever so closer to our goals together. And until next time, as always, take care.